Well, Casey, a couple weeks ago on the show, we talked about AI vibe coding. This is this idea of using AI tools to build apps and websites and other things for yourself, even if you don't know how to code. I talked about some of the projects I'd been building. I built you a hot tub time machine for your hot tub. And we asked listeners to tell us what kinds of projects they were vibe coding. And Casey, we got a lot of responses.
We got so many responses. I'm told it was more than 60 in all, and it was so fun to read through these. Some of the people who wrote in had some amount of technical expertise, and it does seem like the more technical expertise they had, the further they were able to get. But we were also hearing from people who had never coded before and were just trying to see how far they could go with the tools that they have today. And in some cases, the answer was pretty far.
Yeah, and I wrote a column about this last week about my vibe coding experience. And I also got just like a ton of feedback, emails, comments, texts from people who said, I was pretty skeptical about these tools. Maybe I hadn't used them in a while, but after I read your article or heard your segment, I went out, I tried this stuff, I built something. So I do think that there's something about having this firsthand experience encounter with this technology that is persuasive in a way that like two guys yakking about it are not.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, after we had that conversation, I went back to my house and I got out my laptop and I attempted to vibe code.
Yeah, what'd you vibe code?
I made a little platformer video game with a frog in a bathrobe jumping around various platforms collecting coins. I realized that sounds absurd. The absurd thing was I was able to make that.
Yeah.
Because I just typed a few words into a box.
It works?
It works. Now, is it a very fun video game? No, but like it exists.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
Wait, can I play it?
Absolutely.
What's it called?
It's called Frog in a Bathrobe.
Okay, so before we hear about our listeners' vibe coding experiments, I should also check on the status of the hot tub time machine. How's it doing?
Well, first of all, I have to say thank you. It was very kind of you to spend some time in your busy life creating a program that would attempt to instruct me when to put various chemicals and do other forms of maintenance on my hot tub. Hot Tub Time Machine did seem to get a little out of control.
Oh, no. What happened?
I would say that after our episode, it was emailing me basically every day and like telling me to do quarterly maintenance like after I'd owned my hot tub for a week. So fortunately, the emails have slowed down a bit, but it did introduce some questions into my mind about the reliability of Hot Tub Time Machine.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry about that. And I have not looked into that because, frankly, I wouldn't even know how to start debugging something like this. This is one of the like weird things about vibe coding is that you can create something that works, sort of, but if it ever breaks, you have no idea what you're doing. You just have to kind of like poke at it and say like, fix it.
Which is the exact approach I take to home maintenance. If it breaks, oh boy. I'm vibing in the house all day, but then, this stopped working. Why is the ice maker making ice? I don't know.
I vibe assembled an IKEA shelf the other night. Let me tell you.
Don't stand underneath it during an earthquake. That's what I'll say about that shelf.
Okay, let's get to our listeners, and let's hope that they are doing a little bit better than we are with our vibe coding experiments.
Let's do it.
Hi, my name is Mike Lapchick, and I live in Chicago's Wicker Park neighborhood. First of all, the app I made is a speed reader for myself and for my dyslexic ADD friends who can't read without jumbling up letters and words and losing focus altogether. How it works is you paste text in, say, from an article, and it displays one word at a time at around 400 words per minute versus 250 words per minute for normies. I'm not a coder, but I did run the product team at my last startup, and the experience was so similar to working with a developer. The better I defined the project up front, the better the results. If I started with a loose definition, it could become really laborious, again, just like working with a real developer. Thanks for letting me share. Keep up the great work.
So, Kevin, how did you understand what Mike has built?
So this is interesting because it's similar to things that I think have been around for a number of years, which are these speed reading apps that basically take blocks of text, whether it's an article or a book or just a long email, and they basically do what is called rapid serial visual presentation, or RSVP, which is basically flashing one word at a time on your screen very quickly. So that instead of like reading left to right, you're basically just like getting the sort of fire hose directly at you. You don't have to move your eyes at all. It's just sort of one word after another. And people who swear by these apps, I've never been a big user of them, but people swear it helps them read much faster. It could also be helpful for something like dyslexia, where it maybe helps you avoid transposing letters and getting confused that way.
So I love this. We hear from listeners sometimes who want us to talk more about accessibility issues and technology. And maybe one reason why we don't talk about it more is that it is a topic that platforms generally give short shrift to, right? We do not see huge investments being made in accessibility software. And so this feels like a perfect use of vibe coding. You are scratching your own itch. You are building the thing that you cannot trust the company to build for you. And now you have a tool that is maybe going to be useful to folks who have dyslexia and ADHD.
Yeah, I should say I also think this is a great idea, and I think it also demonstrates how disruptive vibe coding could be, because there are speed reading apps that work basically as Mike described that are out there on the market that you have to pay for. And so you could go download one of those, and maybe it'll be a little more polished and have a few more features, or you could just make one yourself for whatever subscription vibe coding product you're using and build your own that you can use over and over again for free.
Yeah, very interesting. All right, let's hear the next one.
My name is Lauren Buell, and I'm a full-time practicing anesthesiologist based in Hanover, New Hampshire. And I started vibe coding with Claude back in November of 2024 and created this app called ConsultCraft that uses adaptive AI to simulate anesthesiology case discussions and provide real-time feedback that's based on case scripts and answers that are written by me. And I have no coding experience and just a very basic understanding of the command line. So it took me about 6 weeks in my spare time to make something that was functional enough that I could send it to my colleagues. And now it's been about 3 months of adding new features and cases weekly, including a database so I can save transcripts for research. And, I expected to hear mostly from my residents who are using it to prepare for their oral board exams, but I've also gotten a lot of positive feedback from colleagues who say things like, I haven't really done that particular case in a while in the operating room, and this was a nice refresher, which has been really great to hear and really unexpected.
Well, I gotta say, this anesthesiologist did not put me to sleep.
No, this perked me right up. Yes. So explain what Lauren has built here.
Okay, so I'm looking at Lauren's app right now. It's very pretty. It's called ConsultCraft, and it looks like basically a case simulator where you can say something that I don't understand, like say you have a transcarotid artery revascularization for carotid stenosis.
I do have that.
And you can click on that, and you can go into like a tutor mode where it explains the case. A 77-year-old man with history of hypertension, something else I can't pronounce, and diabetes mellitus presents to the ED with an episode of right-sided amaurosis fugax.
Wasn't amaurosis in the first Trump administration?
That was omarosa.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So it basically says, like, what do you think of this case? And then you can type your response and get some feedback, or there is a voice mode. This is very cool.
Yeah.
And I get why this took Lauren 6 weeks to build. It is not a simple tool, but I can see how this would be quite useful.
Absolutely. And I find this so inspiring because all of us have some kind of itch in our professional lives where we feel like if only we had a tool like this, it would make my life so much easier. Up until now, if you couldn't write software, you probably couldn't do much about this, certainly not in the digital realm. But Lauren figured out, you know what? I'm going to apply myself. I'm going to spend 6 weeks and I'm going to build something that like now is benefiting not just myself, but all of my colleagues. This is just a great example of the potential of vibe coding.
Yeah, and it actually illustrates something that I found when I wrote about vibe coding, which was that I had built all these software products that I thought were only useful for me, like this tool to help me recommend what to pack for my kids' lunch. And I put it out there in my story that I built this, and I started hearing from people saying, can I get access to this tool? Yeah. So it turns out that if you build something just for yourself, there's probably at least a few other people in the world who could benefit from it too.
So true. Let's hear from our next listener.
Hey, Kevin and Casey. This is Matt. I'm a graphic designer. I live in Los Angeles, and I've been vibe coding for like 6 months. I created a project called Flavorfinder with Claude, and it's a combination of the data set of the Flavor Bible, which is an excellent cooking reference, along with the UI of a color palette generator. So you can kind of go one by one, and you can build the palette as you go, or you can just push generate, and it will create a 5-ingredient flavor pairing that all of the ingredients pair well together. You can lock ingredients and substitute, move them around. It's actually been a really fun way to discover new stuff in the kitchen. Another exercise that I do with a lot of the LLMs is something I call Ro-Sham-Toe. It's a combination of the two worst games of all time, tic-tac-toe and rock, paper, scissors. And I just say, hey, create a little playable web app for me combining these two games. They're so bad, make something fun. I have to say, unfortunately, it's struggled to create anything that's very entertaining, but it is an interesting way to kind of observe how an LLM is thinking.
And I should just start by announcing that the New York Times Company has acquired Ro-Sham-Toe for $1 billion.
Move over, Wordle.
So here's Flavorfinder, and if you see some ingredients that might work well together here: watercress, pineapple, pork, shallot, and olive oil, and you can just have it sort of generate like different combinations of things that fit the taste profile that you're looking for. Look, I am not a good enough home cook to take advantage of something like this, but I know a lot of people probably are.
I might try this.
I think you should.
The next step beyond vibe coding is vibe cooking. And I would like to challenge him to a game of Ro-Sham-Toe.
All right. Next one comes to us from listener Zach.
Hi, Kevin and Casey. My name is Zach. I'm a photographer in New York City. And like Kevin, I was once a young nerd who bounced off of coding in exchange for photography and Flash and Dreamweaver and all that. And lately I've been using like a combination of ChatGPT and Claude and DeepSeek to help me write these little custom shell or Python scripts that help me with some mundane photo tasks. For example, I had a recent job where I had almost 1,000 images that needed to be renamed based on the subject, moved into subfolders based on that name, and exported from their layered Photoshop file into like JPEGs and TIFFs, different file sizes. It was a whole mess. And AI helped me write a script to automate this organization process. It even tried to make a Photoshop script to help the export, but it was pretty bad at that language. But, of course, with all the debugging, it probably took twice as long as it would have taken to do manually, but it was a lot more fun, and now I have this cool script I can tweak in the future. Thanks.
Yeah, so I feel like a question that we never quite answer enough is like, what do we actually want AI for? And to me, an answer to that question is most people's lives are filled with unimaginable drudgery and things that take so long and are so tedious and require zero creativity, really none of their human skills whatsoever. And Zach found himself in exactly this situation, right? He has 1,000 photos. He needs to manipulate them. It's going to take forever, but can he just vibe code a solution that takes him twice as long to do as if he had just done it himself? And I think that's inspiring.
Yeah, it is. But it also, like, I think he's being a little facetious about this because it does seem like this is a process that he does frequently. And so this tool will help him save time in the future. Yes, there is some setup cost to building this tool for yourself. But if this is something that you're planning to do over and over again, it may actually make sense to build a tool rather than doing it manually every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, like, to me, the sort of like BS I want to deal with is wrangling with the computer rather than like the tedium of doing it myself. I'm happier trying to create the tool that hopefully has multiple uses in it than I am just being like, well, it'll be faster if I just manually rename 1,000 photos.
Right. And I think the part of Zach's response that I just resonate with so much is the joy of it. I mean, this is something that I got a lot of blowback on when I published my column. People said, oh, does any of this stuff actually work? Does it actually save you time? How hard is it to actually, decide what to put in your kid's lunchbox yourself, you lazy jerk? And I understand that. Like, I think for me, the point of vibe coding is not pure efficiency. It is also like discovery and exploration. And just, I find it very fun to watch the code fly past as the computer goes to work building something for me.
Yeah, to make a point that I think is sometimes underappreciated, it is fun to learn and it is fun to make things.
Yes.
And these tools help people learn and make things. And
Yes.
that's cool.
Yep. Thanks, Zach. All right. Let's hear from our last vibe coding listener of the day. This one is more of a request.
Hi, Kevin and Casey. My name is Ashley. I'm from Southern California, and I am a working mom with 4 kids, a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And my vibe code idea is I just need an app that goes through all of the social things that I'm supposed to read and capture and do something with across my kids' social calendars. So it's like email, WhatsApp chat, Insta chat, text messages, evites for the birthdays, even Facebook Messenger. I don't know if that's still a thing. But I just need something that can summarize, plan, give me a to-do list, and put it on a shared calendar, which I guess sounds like something that a wife would be able to do, but I'm not that interested in that. So if you could just vibe code me a bit of a wife, that would be awesome. All right, I love the show. Thanks.
Thank you, Ashley. Truly, I don't know if I've ever been so delighted on the show as I have been listening to Ashley's children stampede through her house in the background of her recording this request, which I think is a great request.
Yeah. Also, 4 kids as a working mom, I'm tired just thinking about it.
Yeah.
God bless you.
God bless Ashley. Now, look, this one is a challenge. First of all, the idea is great. Like,
Yes.
I want this too, and I don't even have 4 kids. I think the challenge is Ashley wants many disparate services to interact with each other. And right now, those services mostly do not have ways of interacting. But Kevin, as you, a more seasoned vibe coder, look at this, do you feel like you know an approach that could work?
Yes, I think we can do this.
Okay.
I don't think it is going to be very straightforward because, as you said, it does require the sort of interoperability of a number of different apps that don't natively work all that well together. But Ashley, I think we can get this done for you. And it is my pledge that we will do our best because I honestly need this too. I've only got 1 kid, but I'm telling you, man, the toddler's birthday party circuit is out of control.
It never stops.
Yeah, it never stops. Kids are always having birthdays, and there are so many of them. And some say no gifts, and some say gifts, and some are at parks, and some are at zoos. And you got to keep track of all of it. And my God, how does anyone do this?
How does anyone do it? And can it be vibe coded?
So for my own sake and for yours, Ashley, I'm going to try to vibe code this app for you. Keep you posted.
And you're going to report back to us.
I will.
Okay. All right. Well, it makes sense if the sort of narrative arc of this show is an AI trying to get you to leave your wife to you mastering AI to vibe code a wife. That feels like a great sort of season finale for the Hard Fork show.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks again to everyone who emailed us. All of the emails delighted us. We feel like you guys really like trying new stuff and showing us what you're trying, and it inspires us. So thank you. Hey, that's the end of this clip. If you liked what you saw, head on over to our page and subscribe, and you can get the full podcast. We do a show like this almost every week on tech and the future. Head on over there now and subscribe.